Where's Wesker?
Um, he's over here. Wesker, come here. Come on, you're being summoned. Come on.
Oh, buddy. Venus does not fucking come when she's well, she comes if she's like across the room and is like looking for someone, but if she's just hanging out and you call her, she does not come when she's called. Snowy, I used to be able to call from downstairs and she would be upstairs and she'd come running to me.
Oh,
I miss that. Alright, let me open this shit.
he's such a freak. Stop dragging yourself along the floor.
Little man. Alright, do you remember what happened last time?
Um, give me the rundown.
Basically he just accused, Ling Wen of making the Brocade
Right,
immortal.
right. Yeah, he did do that.
So, last chapter ends. He made sure she could hear every word in his accusation clearly. The Brocade immortal takes on thousands of forms, but that's nothing more than an illusion. No matter how powerful the illusion is, it will always be ineffective on one individual, the one who created it. No matter what shape it takes, it will always show its true form to its creator. You glanced through those 88 ghost robes and didn't see a strange, headless, sleeveless cloth sack. Of course you knew at once that the Brocade immortal wasn't in the pile. So he's still confronting her. Chapter 71. I'm not going to read the title because it spoils. Shilian had initially only planned on keeping the suspicious ghost robes to thoroughly re-examine them himself. But he hadn't realized that he would catch this huge hole in Ling Wen's lies with her one offhand comment. The moment Shilian wrapped his head around what it implied, he went with the flow and managed to blow apart Ling Wen's armor with his crafty words. Ling Wen stood there, frozen. Of course you can deny all this, Shilian granted, but it would be easy to prove the robe's authenticity. All I would need to do is bring the robe to the Palace of Divine Might. Then I can have it change its forms before the Heavenly Emperor and ask you to describe what it looks like, and the truth would come to light. The Brocade immortal sucked the blood of over 500 people when it roamed freely in the mortal realm. It was a sinister object of great evil. Even if Ling Wen had simply broken into the Temple of Divine Might to steal the robe and hadn't yet had the chance to use it to cause harm, it wouldn't have been such an unforgivable crime. But Ling Wen was an appointed deputy general before she ascended, and the earliest stories of the Brocade immortal surfaced long after Ling Wen's tenure in that position, which meant that Ling Wen created the Brocade immortal after she had taken up her duties in the heavenly realm and become a heavenly official. A heavenly official who was duty-bound to protect humanity had seduced and murdered a human. That alone called for a severe criminal sentence. Furthermore, the human who had been lured to his demise was a future heavenly official. Alas, the court would not handle this case with a light hand. Your Highness, are you honestly... Ling Wen sighed. After a pause, she continued. Maybe it's just my bad luck that this mission was given to you. There are only the two of us here at the palace of Ling Wen today, and we've got centuries of friendship between us. But I doubt you'd agree to it if I pleaded for you to turn a blind eye because of that. So now you're going to encourage me to turn myself in to the Palace of Divine Might. Am I right? Shilian sighed too. Although he and Ling Wen had known each other for centuries, it had always been pure business. They had never developed a closer bond. Nonetheless, their relationship was fairly good. When he ascended for the third time, Ling Wen never looked down on him, even when all the others taunted him as the scrap immortal. On the contrary, she had assisted him and taken care of him. But this Brocade immortal mission just had to land on his head. Now that the truth was revealed, it was hard to report it and harder to stay silent. My luck is bad too, Shilian replied earnestly. Ling Wen crossed her arms and shook her head. Your Highness, you... Sometimes you're smart, but sometimes you aren't smart at all. Sometimes you're soft-hearted, but sometimes your heart is as hard as iron. You are rigid as always.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I can hear it.
Okay.
from that one.
After a pause, she asked, "So where is the robe now?" "It's in my custody," Shallan replied. "After we're done here, I will personally deliver it to the Palace of Divine Might." Lingwen nodded, seemingly having nothing more to say. "Can you tell me something?" Shallan asked. "Why didn't the brocade immortal work when Lang Ying wore it?" "I can probably guess," Lingwen said. "But if your Highness wants the answer, will you first agree to a request?" "What is it?" Shallan asked. "Will you let me see it? The brocade immortal?" Shallan was taken aback. "I only need 1 day," Lingwen said. "If I am to turn myself in to the Palace of Divine Might, there may not be any opportunities to see it after. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not going to tamper with it. I was just shocked when you said he'd shown himself." She shook her head, then her eyes stared off in reverie. "It's been so many years, and I've never seen Bai Jing appear once." "That young warrior's name was Bai Jing?" Shallan asked. Lingwen seemed to snap out of it. "Oh, yes. But people usually call him Xiao Bai." "Xiao Bai?" Shallan wondered. "That sounds like they were calling him a dog or an idiot." Lingwen chuckled. "It means what you're thinking of. I'm the one who gave him the name Bai Jing. No one ever called him that. So not many knew the name, but he'll be very happy if you do." In the legend of the Brocade Immortal, the way the young man's beloved treated him made her seem cruel and terrifying. If she didn't have a bone-deep hatred for him, then she was born cold-blooded. Yet Lingwen's tone was amiable when she spoke of that young man. There was neither affection nor hatred. "So will you? If your Highness is worried, I'll run away. You can have Royer bind me. I won't be able to escape. I'm not a martial god." For some reason, Shallan felt he should trust Lingwen. After considering it for a moment, he nodded cautiously. "Very well." They left the palace of Lingwen like nothing was wrong. They greeted other passing heavenly officials as usual, while they strolled down the Avenue of Divine Might. Lingwen looked the same as always, and nothing gave away the fact that her hands were firmly bound by Royer under her sleeves. They didn't get very far before they ran into Pei Ming, who had just returned from his street patrol. The two greeted each other, then stood on the side of the road for a bit to chat and make perfunctory pleasantries. Pei Ming stared at Shallan the entire time, and Shallan grew slightly apprehensive. "Why is General Pei looking at me like that?" Pei Ming stroked his chin. "Not gonna lie, Your Highness. I get the jitters whenever I see you now. Feels like anyone standing next to you is going to have something go wrong," he replied earnestly. "So my poor heart started pounding when I saw you walking with Lingwen. Lingwen, you'd best watch your step for the next little while." Lingwen laughed. "How could that be? General Pei, please stop joking." Shallan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. On some level, Pei Ming's instincts were right on the target. Once back in the mortal realm, they could see Lang Ying leaning against the old tree out front as they drew close to Puchi Shrine. He was spinning the broom in his hand without a care, and next to his feet was a tidy pile of fallen golden leaves. Shallan watched him for a while before he purposely put more weight into his steps to make his approach heard. Lang Ying didn't look back, but he must have noticed their presence, and quite naturally changed his posture. He returned to sweeping, then turned around, and acted like he'd only just noticed Shallan and Lingwen. Shallan lightly cleared his throat. "Sweeping again?" Lang Ying nodded. Seeing him like this, Shallan couldn't resist patting his head like an elder would. "What a good child," he praised. Lang Ying accepted the gesture without reservation. Lingwen watched them without comment. Shallan led her to the shrine's entrance and opened the door. "It's in here." The moment he opened the door, he saw a figure crouched in front of the donation box, sneakily stuffing in gold bars. Shallan hurried over to drag him away. "Qi Ying, stop stuffing it full! That's really enough. I haven't even taken out the ones you put in there last time. You've jammed up the opening with them now." Lingwen nodded. "Greetings, Your Highness Qi Ying." Chi Ying acknowledged her too. Aye. There was a wooden rack set up in the center of Puchi's shrine, and a plain hemp robe hung there. Of course, that was only what Shilian saw. Ling Wen approached and gazed at it solemnly, but the robe did not react, even as the minutes stretched on. She cocked her head. My lords, I want to look at it alone. Is that all right? That's fine, Shilian said. Shilian wasn't worried. Royer had her hands bound, and she wasn't a martial god, so there wasn't much she could try. He laid a hand on Xuanyi Zhen's shoulder. Let's go outside. This case was more or less closed, and Shilian could feel himself relax. The neighbors had recently given...
Dad's
Oh,
calling
your
me.
fucking father. Live Paul reaction. You're on stream.
Hello. Hi. Fine. Nothing much working. That's it. Yep.
Wesker.
Wesker. Yeah, we're hanging. They're not doing one this year. They're just doing catering. What? Yeah, they're getting it from a restaurant. Next week. Yeah. No. I have to fight for it, and sometimes I don't get it. They don't just give raise increases every year. They don't just do that. Yeah. Huh? If my boss...
No, let him stay.
If my boss wants me to get a raise, he'll fight for it as well, but he can't just give me one either. I know a couple people who haven't gotten raises in years, so... How much I'm making? Well, I just got my W-2, and last year I made $38,000. I made $21.50. Who's net? What? I don't know what you're saying. Oh yeah, the national minimum wage is like $7 and something, but no, that's Michigan's. Yeah, the national is $7 and something change. I don't even what I'm making is barely enough, so yeah, but I think it's a nationwide whole kind of failure. I can afford what I currently have. If I want something more, then it'll be difficult. Yeah. Yeah, speaking of, there's cracks along my AC unit leading up to the window, and then I press it, and then it just it's soft, so I mean, obviously that's watered down. And then my apartment leasing company just got bought out by someone else. Yeah, so I want to leave when I want to leave. There's my lease isn't up until September, but I have like I don't know what I'll find. Everything is difficult. I can't. The standard right now is like 1,700 for one bedroom. A house to rent, right? Right. I mean, that's hoping. But then I have to pay. What's gonna happen What's gonna happen this first 3 months of this year? What do you mean? Yeah, I don't think he's gonna help as much as you think. We've been in debt for a while. I don't think that's changed anything.
Now he's got to clear all that place up. I mean, he's going to take the tariff in there, which is going to affect everybody here.
Yeah, yeah. Tariffs affect us, by the way. Tariffs affect us. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Anybody that buys anything in any product that we can't produce in a fashionable cost.
Right. So those
because we live in square foot is now going to be effective in our state.
I don't
understand it.
I understand what you're saying. It's gonna be more than just that. It's gonna be food.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be food because we can produce our own.
I don't think half of what we have. Also, I don't think I want our current food because the FDA has no say in what gets done anymore. That's why we have bird flu going around. What then? We're gonna have to do this all over again? Because we have RFK who's about to kill us all?
Who's RFK?
No. That's Robert F. Kennedy, who is going to be our head of health that Trump appointed. And he doesn't believe, one, in vaccines, and two, he doesn't believe that he has a brain worm currently. Like he has a brain worm. He has legitimately a worm eating away his brain. Like, that's a real thing. I'm not making that up.
How did he get that then?
I don't know. He's crazy. He put a dead bear in his car. A dead bear. He ate roadkill bear in New York. From him, he said it. That's what's crazy. He's just this crazy. And that's who he is, and that's who's going to be in charge of our health. So, I don't have high hopes in general.
I can see that.
And I wouldn't, like, none of this is helpful to me. None of him is helpful to me, or what he has bringing to the table. And I don't think any of them has done anything for me as a growing adult. So it's my humble opinion. I feel like I've just been just losing things, losing opportunities in my life. That's what it feels like to grow up in this time. Just letting you know.
Right.
And I'll probably, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but it might. They want to take away, like, all my medication, so.
No.
I mean, that's what they're saying. They don't want to, they don't want any, trans people, so.
Who said that?
Trump, RFK,
Yeah.
every single one of his minions. That's what he made his whole campaign about this election. They don't want me to exist.
I don't know if that's it, but they're making it maybe tough on you.
I don't think that's right.
Well, it isn't right in your eyes, but it's the majority of people that make decisions that says they're not adjusting to it right.
So do you think that if a majority wanted slavery back, that we should do that?
To a point, we're at that now.
I mean, we definitely have still some slavery labor. But I mean, just because something is majority and does not mean it's correct. No. Why?
No, I just wondered if you talked to him.
Not recently, no.
Show this weekend coming up,
Okay.
and after that, to the 20th or so, get together. Super
Okay.
busy on my end.
All right.
How we calling your water leak?
Well, yeah, but it's in my bedroom. I don't want to lose access because they're gonna have to replace this whole thing, do something to the wall, and I don't know what I'm gonna do in that time.
Yeah, but you don't want mold in your skin.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know where I would go or what I would do. This is where I live. This is where I sleep.
I think in March we need to watch those. I don't know where you went at.
Wait, what in March?
Watch the dogs.
Oh, when? Because I'm at the end of the month. I'm going to Arizona. I told you this. You're cutting in and out.
I think they put it in March. March.
Yeah, in March I'm going.
To the end of the month.
Yeah, end of the month. That's what I said. You didn't
End
say.
of the month is February.
No, end of the month of March.
No, I think it's before that. And you're going to Arizona, right?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Going to Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to... Maybe Zach can do it. I don't know. We're going to figure things out.
Okay. But yeah, if I have to go feed them or
Right.
whatever.
I don't know how that's going to work. Let me let you go here. And then we'll try to get together
Okay.
from now to the end of the month. It's something like that, right?
Okay.
All right. Have a great day. Be safe.
I will.
All right.
Love you too. Bye.
Insane conversation.
Oh, wait.
God, I want to debate him on politics so bad. Let me in. Let me in.
Thing is, most of the things that you can say, you can like tell him the truth, and he's like, that doesn't sound right, because he doesn't use his critical thinking and look things up
Yeah.
or figure out if it's
But
right or not.
But that's how he gets all his information, is from word of mouth. So you have to word of mouth him
Yeah.
up.
Exactly. I was like, who RFK was killing? I was like,
Him not knowing who RFK was is crazy. It's like, bro, you voted for him.
And the fact is also he would like I literally said they want to kill trans people, and he's like, off of that topic.
He had literally, he doesn't understand.
he doesn't want to feel the. I don't think he wants to feel the guilt of.
Yeah, he doesn't want to feel the
I
guilt.
just
He
did
doesn't want
this
to
to you.
think about it too hard.
In the same way that I was like, okay, so if everyone wanted slavery, would that be okay?
And then he's
It's
like,
like,
we still have that.
technically still have that. I was like, whoa, I didn't
It's
expect
like,
that
you're
from
getting
you,
so
but okay.
close to the point, bro.
Literally. Stupid.
All right,
Paul. Yeah,
reading.
anyways, sorry.
She asked to be alone in the shrine with the thing.
Okay.
Shilian wasn't that worried. Royer had her hands bound, and she wasn't a martial god, so there wasn't much she could try. He laid a hand on Xuan Yizhen's shoulder. Let's go outside. This case was more or less closed, and Shilian could feel himself relax. The neighbors had recently given him a bunch of fruits and vegetables, so Shilian took them to the kitchen, ready to cook. His undefeated spirit should be admired as an example to all. Now that he'd stayed there for a few days, Xuan Yizhen seemed to have taken Puchi Shrine as some sort of happy farm. He kept leaping around, climbing trees, stealing squash, snagging fish, and catching frogs. In a moment of Shilian's carelessness, Xuan Yizhen snuck into the kitchen and swiped a yam. Feeling the empty spot on the counter, Shilian turned to see Xuan Yizhen slipping out of the kitchen with the yam dangling from his mouth, hurrying away like a fish who had escaped the net. "It's not cooked yet! Don't eat it!" Shilian cried. It was precisely because it hadn't been cooked yet that it had to be eaten quickly. Once Shilian cooked it, it wouldn't be edible anymore. Shilian shook his head. Then he saw Lang Ying walking over, and his eyes turned crescent as he smiled. "Lang Ying, are you free? Come help me chop some vegetables." Lang Ying seemed to have been planning to snatch the yam back from Xuan Yizhen, but when he heard Shilian's request, he came over to help without a second thought. Taking his task very seriously, he picked up the knife from the cutting board and sliced into the cabbage, cutting with the utmost concentration. Shilian watched him for a moment, then turned to rinse the rice as he chatted. "Lang Ying, you've seen quite a number of gods and ghosts coming and going from our little Puchi shrine now, right? Each of them more bizarre than the next." From behind him, Lang Ying answered, Then let me ask you something," Shilian continued. "If you had to pick, who amongst them do you think is the handsomest?" Lang Ying was engrossed in chopping the vegetables and seemed to be thinking hard. Shilian lightly arched his brows. "Go on, tell me. Just say whatever you think is the truth." Lang Ying answered, "You." Shilian laughed. "Besides me." "The one in red," Lang Ying said. Shilian was going to bust a gut trying to contain his laughter. I think so too," he responded seriously. Remember, Lang Ying's been acting sus.
Yeah.
I think so too," he responded seriously. After a pause, he asked again, "Then, who do you think is the coolest?" Lang Ying still answered, "The one in red." Shilian swiftly continued his questions without skipping a beat. "Who's the richest?" "The one in red." "Who do you admire the most?" "The one in red." "Who's the silliest?" "The one in green." The questions came one after the other without a pause, but he was surprisingly able to change his answer in time. It spoke for his quick wit and reactions. "It seems you quite like this Gugga dressed in red," Shilian commented. "His name is Hua Cheng. Remember it well. So does this mean you think he's nice?" The chopping of the knife in Lang Ying's hand had gotten many times faster, seemingly without the wielder noticing. "Very nice." "So then once we're free, do you think we should invite him here again?" Shilian asked. Of course. It's a must," Lang Ying replied. "I think so too," Shilian said. "But his subordinate said he's been very busy lately, so he must be occupied by very serious business. I think it's best if we don't disturb him." After that comment, the crunching sound of vegetables being chopped grew more heavy-handed. Shilian gripped the edge of the stove to support himself, his stomach straining from trying to hold back his laughter. Xuan Yizhen poked his head in the window, sweeping a look over the kitchen as he took a bite of the yam. "You chopped it to shreds. It won't taste good anymore," he said to Lang Ying. What did you say?" Lang Ying threatened. Shilian turned to look. The cabbage wasn't just shredded, it was pulverized into tiny scraps. He cleared his throat softly. "My gosh, your knife work is really bad." After throwing all sorts of seasonings into the pot, Shilian dusted off his hands and decided to let it simmer for 2 hours, then left the kitchen. He glanced at Ling Wen. She was still behaving herself in the shrine, so he continued to do his chores. He picked out a larger plank from the pile of firewood and borrowed a brush and ink from the village chief's house, then sat in front of the door lost in thought. One hand held the plank, and the other held the brush. Lang Ying walked over, and Shilian looked up. "Lang Ying, can you read? Do you know how to write?" he asked warmly. "Yes," Lang Ying replied. "How's your writing?" "Mediocre." "That's all right, as long as it's legible. Come, give me a hand again." Shilian passed the plank and brush over to Lang Ying and smiled. "Our shrine doesn't have an establishment plaque. Why don't you draft one for me?" Lang Ying picked up the brush at Shilian's insistence. The little brush in his hand seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and wouldn't be moved no matter what. A moment later, he seemed to concede defeat and put down both the brush and plank. A helpless voice came from underneath the bandages. "Gugga, I was wrong." That voice didn't belong to Lang Ying at all, though it was crisper and more boyish than it normally was. It was clearly the voice of Hua Cheng. Shilian had been leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, and after watching him struggle for so long and finally surrender, he could no longer hold back and sank to the ground in a fit of laughter. San Lang really is extremely busy. Since they hadn't seen each other for a long time, Shilian had missed him dearly, even though that long time was no more than a few days. Yet who would have thought Hua Cheng had been hiding right by his side all this time? Shilian's mood brightened immediately, and all his previous concerns were completely forgotten. He was laughing so hard he was having trouble getting up. "Gugga, you played me," Hua Cheng accused. Shilian picked up the brush and plank. "Don't turn this on me. San Lang played me first. Let me guess, you've been around ever since I broke the stove, right?" "Ah, that's true. Gugga, how did you know? You're amazing," Hua Cheng complimented him. Shilian waved dismissively. "Amazing? San Lang, if you want to wear disguise, don't be so lazy about it. It would be more amazing if I hadn't seen through it. And here I thought there really was a second person who could eat. Honestly, who's the handsomest? Who's the coolest? Who's the richest? Who do you admire the most?" "Gugga, please forget that ever happened," Hua Cheng pleaded softly. Shilian was resolute in his refusal. "No, I will remember this forever. Gugga, although I'm happy you're so happy, is it really that funny?" Hua Cheng asked in a woeful tone. Shilian hugged his belly as he laughed. "Of course! Only since meeting you have I rediscovered how simple it is to be happy."
Oh
Hearing
my
this,
God.
that's one of my favorite quotes. Hearing this, Hua Cheng blinked. Shilian's laughter quieted as he realized that his words were a little too frank. Even he thought they were a little corny now that he'd calmed down. Clearing his throat quietly, Shilian rubbed at the corners of his eyes and forced himself to school his expression. All right, enough playing around. Where's the real Lang Ying? Why are you disguised as him? Bring that child back now. I sent him to Ghost City as a guest, Hua Cheng replied languidly. Since Hua Cheng was the one who took him away, Shilian wasn't worried. He nodded and was about to continue their conversation when the wooden door creaked open. Ling Wen walked outside Puchi Shrine with her hands clasped behind her back. Your Highness. Hua Cheng had no intention of revealing his identity, so Shilian didn't mention it and pretended he was still Lang Ying in front of the others. Seeing Ling Wen's solemn expression, Shilian's smile faded unconsciously. What is it? The brocade... is something wrong with Bai Jing? No, there's nothing wrong with him, Ling Wen said. There's a weird smell coming from the kitchen. Is your Highness cooking something? Oh, I am. It's simmering on the stove, Shilian replied quickly. After some thought, Ling Wen used a courteous tone to say very discourteously, Please clear it away, Your Highness. Whatever you're cooking, it's probably ruined by now. 2 hours later, evening had come. Inside Puchi Shrine, Hua Cheng, Ling Wen, and Xuan Yizhen sat around the little wooden altar table. Shilian brought a pot from the kitchen and set it on the table. He opened the cover to reveal dozens of cute, round, smooth, snow-white little meatballs, sagely curled inside. Weren't you stewing something? How did it turn into meatballs? Xuan Yizhen demanded. Shilian introduced his creation. This dish is called the Incorruptible Chastity Meatballs.
What?
Weren't you stewing something? How did it turn into meatballs? Xuan Yizhen demanded. Kneading meatballs requires delicate strength. Not too hard, not too light, Shilian continued his presentation. That's why so much time went into these. Weren't you stewing something? How did it turn into meatballs? Xuan Yizhen demanded. Since Xuan Yizhen was so relentless, Shilian explained warmly. It was originally more of a stew, you're right, but because there was a small mishap with time and controlling the fire, all the water boiled off, so I mixed in new ingredients and made meatballs instead. Hearing this, Ling Wen praised him wholeheartedly. Your Highness truly thinks outside the box. There is no one like you in all of history. I am steeped in deep respect. Please, that's too much praise, Shilian said. It's not, Ling Wen said. At least, I certainly do believe there will never be another person in history able to create a dish called Incorruptible Chastity Meatballs. Shilian passed chopsticks around. Thank you, everyone, please. Ling Wen and Xuan Yizhen took chopsticks with one hand and at the same time reached for the cold buns sitting at the edge of the table with the other. Only Hua Cheng reached for an Incorruptible Chastity meatball and popped it in his mouth. After a moment, he remarked, Pretty good. Xuan Yizhen's eyes widened at the sight. A bit bland, Hua Cheng added. Okay, duly noted, Shilian said. Xuan Yizhen watched with wide eyes as the bandaged boy next to him ate several of the abnormally glistening meatballs and gave such sincere feedback. After some thought, he seemed to be persuaded and reached for his own meatball. Shilian maintained his smile. He smiled and watched Xuan Yizhen swallow. He smiled as Xuan Yizhen's face turned pale. He smiled as Xuan Yizhen crumpled to the floor. Shilian continued smiling as he asked, Is something the matter? Probably ate too fast and choked, Hua Cheng advised. Ling Wen grinned. All of a sudden, Shilian heard a familiar voice in his ear. Gaga. It wasn't Lang Ying's mumbling voice, nor was it the crisp and languid voice of Hua Cheng in his boyish form. It was the voice of the usual Hua Cheng, and he was speaking to Shilian through their private communication array. Shilian raised his lashes slightly. What is it? Ling Wen is cruel and cunning, heartless and merciless. Things might not end so easily now that you've brought her here. This was the first time Shilian had ever heard anyone make such comments about Ling Wen. He thought for a moment, then replied, It seems to me she harbors some goodwill towards the brocade immortal. That much, at least, I believe is true. Harboring goodwill and being merciless don't conflict. She's the #1 civil god in the heavens. Her eyes and ears are everywhere, and her arms are far-reaching. Gaga needs to guard against her seeking out helping hands. General Pei? Shilian asked. Unlikely, Hua Cheng replied. She certainly would have asked the water tyrant for his assistance in suppressing the matter if he were still around, as Shiwudu always acted on acquaintance and not reason. But Pei Ming might not be willing to aid corruption as long as you inform him of the truth. Guga, be careful. All right, I will be careful, Shilian said. Good thing a day goes by fast. However, Hua Cheng's voice was dark in his ear. No, Guga, you've misunderstood. I'm telling you to be careful because of something else. We have visitors. The clinking, crisp sound... Oh my god, I just realized what's happening. The clinking, crisp sounds of bells reached Shilian's ears. Hua Cheng frowned slightly. Shilian looked through the window and saw a middle-aged cultivator approaching this entrance of Puchi village and ringing a bell as he strutted forth. The cultivator wore a rather magnificent cultivation robe and carried a treasure chest on his back that was covered in yellow talismans. As he walked along, his bell rang with each step. Shilian recognized it as a good tool. He had an eye for these things. The sound of that bell would give a piercing headache to any low-level evil beings that were near enough to hear it, and they would steer clear. Before the cultivator got any closer to the shrine, he was joined by a few other large, white-browed, yellow-robed monks, carrying staves in their hands, their gait steady as they approached. Soon, a crowd of 50 or 60 had gathered, and Puchi Shrine was heavily surrounded. It was as if they had planned this meeting and were unsurprised to see one another present. These people weren't just putting on a show. Their bodies were hung with spiritual weapons, and their forms were composed and obviously very skilled. Heavenly officials took spiritual power from their worshippers' offerings, and likewise, certain Taoist and Buddhist cultivators could request spiritual power from the heavenly officials they worshipped. And so the monks and cultivators gathering at the shrine might possess greater spiritual power than Shilian, a heavenly official. So many of them swarming outside all at once couldn't herald anything good. Shilian sensed that the newcomers didn't come in peace, and knitted his brows in concern. Hua Cheng put down his bowl and chopsticks and rose to his feet. Shilian heard his humph in the private communication array. Those foul old monks and cultivators dared chase me all the way here. I'm sorry that I brought trouble to your door, Guga. I'll leave and lead them away. Shilian grabbed him. Don't move. Ling Wen was bewildered. What's going on? Shilian spoke to Hua Cheng through their private communication array. Don't go. Tell me honestly, is the opening of Mount Tonglu affecting you greatly? No, Hua Cheng replied. Shilian stared intently at the eyes behind the bandages. Stop lying. You're a supreme ghost king. You don't need to be afraid of mortals like them. Why would you lead them away and not beat them away? You weren't just playing a prank when you changed into this form, were you? The stronger the nefarious creature, the more they felt the Mount Tonglu's effects. Shilian had witnessed with his own eyes just how much misery Hua Cheng had suffered the first time the ghosts were agitated, and the tremors would only intensify as the gate's opening approached. If Shilian had been the one suffering such a thing, he would have chosen to temporarily seal his true form. To avoid going berserk and conserve his spiritual powers, he would transform into a small creature and wait it out until the mountain had finally formally opened. That would be a way to avoid the torment of Mount Tonglu's aggravation, but because his powers were sealed, it gave others the opportunity to ambush him. Shilian cursed. Qirong, you... That night, Qirong had threatened to bring forth all the Taoists and Buddhist monks who had grievances with Hua Cheng, but Shilian was shocked to see that he hadn't been bluffing. Hua Cheng shook his head. Guga, they're only targeting me. It'll be fine once I'm gone. Although I can't kill them with a single move in my current form, I can at least make them get lost. But Shilian threatened. If you leave now, don't ever come back to see me again. Your Highness! Hua Cheng cried, shocked. Hua Cheng was usually so flawlessly composed. He had helped Shilian so many times in the past, so now that Shilian finally had the chance to help him, how could he possibly allow Hua Cheng to leave all alone? Sit down. I'll go meet with them, Shilian said darkly. Xuan Yizhen opened his eyes with great difficulty. Is someone here? He asked in a daze. His voice was hoarse. Do you need me to beat them up? Shilian helped him close his eyes. Qiying, just keep laying there. Although you can't just beat up mortals, it'll cost you merits. Julien pressed himself against the wooden door to listen for any movement outside. Some villagers, who had just finished their work for the day, were still out and about and hadn't yet gone home for dinner, and they were amazed to see so many Taoists and monks. "What are the masters doing here?" they asked. "Are you here for Shi Daozhang?" A murderous-looking monk put his hands together in prayer. "Amitabha Buddha, benevolent donor, are you aware that this place has been invaded by wicked creatures?" "What?" The villagers were shocked. "Wicked creatures? What kind of wicked creatures?" "A hell-raising ghost king, singular in his evil throughout the ages," another monk replied enigmatically. "What do we do?" the villagers exclaimed. The splendidly dressed cultivator had been the first to arrive, so he took it upon himself to announce their intent. "Leave it to us. Today, we who walk the same path are gathered here for one reason. We have been blessed with the chance of a lifetime to capture that vile ghost." However, before he could rush the shrine, the village chief pulled him back. The cultivator glared at him. "Who are you? What are you doing?" Masters," the village chief laughed nervously. "I'm the leader of this village. We're very thankful you're here, but to tell you the truth, y'all look very expensive." "We've come to defeat evil. Do you think we're here for a reward?" the splendidly dressed cultivator said, offended. They tried to charge again, but the villagers stopped them once more. Although the monks and cultivators were growing irritated, they couldn't just shove themselves through. "What now?" they demanded with forced patience. The village head wrung his hands nervously. "If it's free, then that's great. Our thanks to the masters for coming here to defeat evil with benevolent hearts. But it's just that all such work here in this village is taken care of by Shi Daozhang. It's hard on me, as the village chief, if the masters have to come to steal Shi Daozhang's work." The band of monks and cultivators looked at each other in dismay. "Shi Daozhang?" They huddled around. "Is there a well-known, mighty Taoist school in the trade with the name of Shi? Don't think so. Either way, I've heard of him. I've never heard of him. Probably some nobody. If we haven't heard of him, then he's not well known, so who cares?" After their discussion, the splendidly dressed cultivator turned back around. "The Shi Daozhang you speak of, is he the one living in this place?" "Yeah," the villagers then shouted in the direction of Puchi Shrine. Shi Daozhang, your peers are here. There's so many of them. Are you home?" A yellow-robed old monk pressed his hands together in prayer. "Amitabha Buddha. It doesn't matter if Shi Daozhang is here. That wicked creature is hiding in this house right now." The villagers were stunned. "Huh?" At this point, Julien pushed the door open and leisurely strolled out. "I'm here. What's going on, everyone?" "Daozhang, these eminent monks and cultivators are saying in your house there's a ghost," the villagers stammered. Julien smiled. "Eh? You can tell?" The crowd outside the shrine was shocked. "It's true? What a quick confession of guilt!" Julien tossed a jar to them. "That's right, there really is a ghost." The splendidly dressed cultivator caught the jar and was delighted at first, but his smile collapsed when he opened it. "A half-maquillage woman!" He tossed the jar back, looking very obviously displeased. "Don't pretend, my friend. A vulgar ghost like this isn't even at the level of a fierce. You know exactly what we're referring to." Julien caught the jar and could tell that the man's throw wasn't weak. It was obvious that he had cultivated for many arduous years and had considerable strength. Daoxiang, I can sense that this cultivator's body is full to bursting with evil qi, a number of monks said to the splendidly dressed cultivator. Could he be... "I, Heaven's Eye, can determine such things with just one glance," the splendidly dressed cultivator stated. With a loud shout, he bit his finger and drew a line of blood down his forehead, and a moment later a third eye looked like it sprouted on his face. Julien silently praised this demonstration of skill, and he leaned against the door to enjoy the show. The splendidly dressed cultivator glared at him for a moment with great concentration. "I knew it! There it is! Ghost chi! Such sinister ghost chi! You did change your face after all, Ghost King!" Julien was struck dumb. How could he, an esteemed and titled heavenly official, have ghost chi on him? He was just starting to think that this man might have some skill, so why was he spewing nonsense not a moment after? At this accusation, the 50 or 60 masters in the gathering looked like they were steeling themselves to face a great enemy. Each of them went into a fighting stance. "These people are so annoying," Huacheng said to Shilian in the private communication array. "It's fine. It's not that bad. Just sit tight," Shilian replied. The splendidly dressed cultivator spoke up again a moment later, but he sounded doubtful. "That's not right?" "What's not right?" the monks next to him asked. The splendidly dressed cultivator rubbed the blood mark on his forehead. "This is weird. When I look at this man, he's sometimes covered in ghost chi, sometimes glowing with spiritual light, and sometimes dull and colorless. This is really strange." "Huh? How can that be? Daoshang, can you handle this? If you can't, let us take over." "Yeah, how could it be so bizarre?" The splendidly dressed cultivator was miffed. "What? You think I can't do this? If I can't, you think you can? I, Heaven's Eye, have been in the trade for years and years, and I've rarely gotten anything wrong." Shilian rubbed his forehead and shook his head. "Then why don't you take another look and tell me which part of me has the strongest ghost chi?" he asked temperately. Heaven's Eye rubbed his forehead hard and studied him again for a moment. "Your lips," he firmly declared. That's the end of the fucking... That's the end.
God.
That character's so funny. He comes back later. It's funny, guy. Do you understand why?
Yes.
Funny as fuck. Alright. That's where we're gonna stop. Why are you mogging me? What is that? What is this expression?
Pain. They pinched a nerve.
Oh no.